Hello to all viewers. Thank you for tuning into our very first episode. And for this video, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic today called the Royal Tenenbaums. For this episode, you got me, Audriva, Destiny, Tyree, and Brooklyn speaking on this topic. So let's get straight into this video. In my opinion, it seems like Margaret Tenenbaum was the most heartbroken during her childhood memories. To begin with, she was adopted at a very young age of 2 years old. She realized this because her father pointed it out every chance he got whenever he met new people. Hearing her father repeat this may have hurt Margaret in some way, because the father is revealing to strangers that she is not his biological daughter, and according to my understanding, it is not a great feeling to hear that you were adopted, especially since the word adopted indicates that your blood gave you away. Children that realize that they were adopted have wondered many reasons as to why they were given away, with some damaging reasons including believing that they were a mistake or to blame for their parents' actions. So it is reasonable to suggest that Margaret may have thought and felt this kind of way and as a result regarded herself as an outcast in the family. Matters became more complex as she tried to gain the attention of her father. To do so, she expressed her talent as a playwright and got awarded a grant in the 9th grade. But even so, her father didn't even make an effort to bond with her or compliment her astounding accomplishments. Instead, he just pointed out her flaws and demanded more from her. And her being the only girl out of all the children adds to the feeling even more. As shown in the film, her brothers Richie and Chad spent more time with the father than she ever did, such as hunting, while for her, she remained in the house participating in activities that fit under her standards, not just her dad. So overall, Margaret, observing her father's actions, possibly made her feel out of place. This explains why she is the way she is now, wild, secretive, and independent.
I agree. I think Margot is the most heartbroken from childhood. She seems the most unhappy and emotionally unavailable in life. She didn't show emotion at her father's funeral, and she didn't show any emotion when she was given divorce papers. She doesn't allow herself to give or receive love. She was in love with her brother Richie for most of her adult life, but when they finally had the chance to be together, she ran. The one time we do see emotion from Margot is when she begs her brother to not kill himself. You can also hear the cracks in her voice when she says it before she runs away. Margot lived like more than double, triple, quadruple lives. She's been married, she's been divorced, she's been with a lot of people. She had a secret addiction to cigarettes, she was in love with her brother, and no one knew this stuff. And she just carried it all inside. And she didn't really allow herself to breathe either. From all of the children, Margot is the most distant from her family. When she sat down and asked her father what her middle name was as they were eating ice cream, he had no idea. And he never cared about her life or her talents or how she was feeling. So she goes the rest of her life feeling sad and miserable, not caring about how others feel. So I think she breaks her own heart and she breaks other people's hearts, and she doesn't even care.
I also agree with Destiny and Ojavera, and I say that because I always thought Margaret was the most heartbroken since the beginning. And I say that because when they told her she was adopted, that's the first thing that popped in my head. When you're adopted, the family usually tries to make it seem like you're a part of it, like you weren't adopted. But her father does otherwise. He often brings up that she was adopted, and I feel like that just is wrong to Margaret, and I feel like she's never really emotionally happy throughout the whole movie. And I just feel like Margaret's father just constantly keep bringing up that she's adopted is the lack of sympathy and love for Margaret, and conveys a sense of heartbrokenness, in my opinion.
I also believe Margot Tenenbaum is the most heartbroken in this movie. And it could be the fact that she's the black sheep of the family, since she's the only one of the Tenenbaum children that is adopted. So she is not the biological child of neither of the Tenenbaum parents. Margot being the only one of the Tenenbaum children who is adopted, she did not receive the same love, attention, and passion from her adoptive parents as her brothers did. And she was also the only girl. So that was another factor that played into the fact that her parents, especially her father, didn't show her the same attention they did to the boys. Margot feeling excluded all the time from the family led her to start smoking at 12 years of age, and no one ever knew. That's how secretive and disconnected she was, and how little attention the family was showing her. I think the music enhances the movie, kind of. However, the song Hey Jude is playing at the beginning of the movie when the characters are being introduced. It gives off the vibe that the movie is going to be upbeat and happy, and that is not the case. The song Christmas Time Is Here is played around the time Margot and her father, Royal, are getting ice cream. Royal doesn't really know much about his daughter and never really took the time to get to know her. The song has a sad tune, however, a happy title.
Music features do prominently enhance movies, and I will say that Hey Jude, to me, definitely enhanced this movie just by being played in the beginning. It was kind of like a spinoff, and it was kind of confusing to me a little bit. And I say that because when you hear Hey Jude in the beginning of the movie, which is playing when everyone is being introduced, you think happy. You think it's going to be a family movie and it's happy and there's no drama. It's going to be a comedy. But no, it catches you off guard. There's so much drama. There's a lot of endless going back and forth. There's a suicide. So listening to that song, you would not have thought that it was going to be so much drama, chaos, and there would be a suicide in here. For the song Christmas Time, I feel like it enhanced the movie because I felt like it was just played at the right time. It was a rare, happy, iconic, non-chaotic moment, which made the song fit right in.
I agree with Destiny and Tyree because music is always a great feature that helps tell the meaning behind a movie's film message. It seems like each song in this movie was selected to fit each scene. The first song I took a notice to was Hey Jude, written by the Mutato Musica Orchestra, used in the first part of the movie, where the narrator talks about the positive moments in the Tenenbaum family, where everyone was successful at accomplishing their own goals and dreams. Not only this, but the song, this time in the Beatles version, was used again once the family decided to move back in together for the first time in many years. So as we can see, it looks like this song Hey Jude was a motivational song. In fact, in one of the lyrics, it tells us not to be down and that everything is going to be okay. The next song, I believe, helped the director's story was called These Days by Nico. In this scene, Margaret gets down from a bus and meets Richie Tenenbaum for the first time in a while. Knowing that Margaret is a complex character, the song helps reveal Margaret's emotions, where she's able to openly show her feelings of love, vulnerability, guilt, and desperation. The lyrics connect to her situation as it says, I don't do much talking these days. These days I seem to think a lot. I had a lover. Where the background sound of the music and the singer's voice creates an affectionate appeal for Margaret's character. Another song that tells a story about Margaret's complicated moments is titled Police and Thieves, written by The Clash. I say this because at this moment, Eli Clash reveals to Margaret that Richie was in love with her. With the heavy bass and reggae sound, along with the lyrics that say from Genesis to Revelation, and all the crime coming day by day, no one stops in my way, reveals her emotions very clearly. Her mind and heart is all scattered because she realizes that the love of her life loves her back, and she is stuck in a relationship between her husband and Eli. Richie's best friend. Another interesting song that grabbed my interest was called The Needle in the Hay, written by Elliott Smith. The song got played during the most vulnerable moment of Richie's life, where he attempted to commit suicide after finding about Margaret's secret past life. Even the song helps convey Richie's thoughts. I can't beat myself. I don't want to talk. I'm taking the cure so I can be quiet. Which could mean the reader that is talking is not a solution. Instead, killing myself will keep him quiet. So this song was able to communicate to the reader that Richie felt lost and was hurt, and he thought talking about his pain would create problems, so silencing himself through death was the best solution. This is where the scene helps the music, as it shows Richie cutting his hair and slitting his wrists. Lastly, the music titled Christmas Time, written by Vince Guaraldo Trio, is a song played around the time Margaret leaves to go back home with her family, and when she meets her father, Royal, together one-on-one for the first time. Instead for the scene to be special, also through the help of the upbeat song, it actually became an awkward one. The warm reunion between father and daughter didn't go as planned, as Royal thought it would be. Their meeting failed because unfortunately her father still did not know anything about his daughter. He didn't know her middle name, and Margaret eventually had to tell him. Although Royal Tenenbaums was trying to make an effort, he still had a long way to go.
I agree with Destiny. The song Hey Jude was not the correct or appropriate song choice to start off this movie. Like both Tyree and Destiny stated, the song starts the movie as if it's going to be happy and upbeat, when in actuality the movie is depressing and drama-filled. I do feel like the writers had specific intentions when making the song choice, such as maybe wanting to dramatize it at heightened scenes in the movie and keep the audience guessing about what would happen next, in which they did that anyways, because at some points in the movie, I got lost in the different scenes because I felt like it was all over the place.
No, not whatsoever. Each character carried their own problems before they came back to the house. First, Royal Tenenbaum was not in a great position after he left the house 22 years ago. He remained the same way he was before, greedy, selfish, deceptive, and carefree. And now he faces the risk of getting kicked out of the Lindenberg Hotel because he has no money to pay for a desired lavish lifestyle. None of his family members have reached out to check on him because of his distasteful past, and instead is left to fend for himself. Noticing this does not make him happy, so he spies on his wife's daily activities to check on how she is doing. To add, when he realizes that he was the most comfortable and successful when he was with his family, he tried to come up with a deceptive plan to get all his family members back in the same roof. This included faking an illness to win back the sympathy of all his family members, which only led to further issues. For the mother, Ethel Tenenbaum, her life became even more busier after a separation from Royal. She had to take on more responsibilities, care for the children, while also balancing her own life. It seems like this woman didn't have a carefree life because each of her children had problems of their own and needed her assistance. While carrying this heavy responsibility, she struggled to enjoy a happy love life. She didn't care to respond to many of the proposals she received from many men. I suspect that she may have still lingering feelings for her undivorced husband, but at one moment, there came one man that successfully gained her attention, whose name was Herman Sherman. But this happy moment became even more complex after her husband came back into her life.
Are you crazy?
Well, wait a minute, damn
The
it.
parents weren't the only ones experiencing a problem of their own. The children were too as well. Richie Tenenbaum was already experiencing a problem of his own. He experienced a meltdown during his prime year for tennis. While trying to satisfy his own passion, his father's wishes, and his fans, that all crumbles down once he witnessed his sister Margaret with her husband relayed during the time of the event. This affected him and caused him to make several mistakes, which ended the match. Ever since then, his tennis career became a hiatus after that match. Because of it, he escaped away to cool his mind off of everything. But he can't help but think of Margaret on his boat trip. He can't stop thinking of her because he was secretly in love with her for many years. The agony he has led him to air out his frustration to his friend Eli. But things get more complicated once he comes back to meet Margaret again. Margaret Tenenbaum, on the other hand, was not happy with her life. In addition to her troubled childhood memory, she got married to Relay, but from observing the film, they don't look like a happy married couple. Instead, their relationship looks dysfunctional and unhealthy. Margaret does not love Relay. She pretends that she loves her husband, but in actuality, she's truly in love with her brother Richie. She tried to suppress those feelings through hiding her true nature inside a bathroom. The secretive lifestyle Margaret tries to hide is actually affecting her inside, because she never looks happy and instead feels frustrated. Lastly, Chaz has lived through the most troubling moments. His father favored and treated him older than his age compared to Richie, who got time to spend doing activities such as tennis. He was treated as a grown adult at a very young age. His father took advantage and betrayed him during his most happiest moment with his father. He lost his wife and carried two big responsibilities, which were his children, Ari and Uzi, while also trying to maintain his work.
I don't think any of the children have happy relationships. Deep down, they're all depressed and miserable. Margot has been cheating on her husband. Richie is in love with his sister and even ruined his tennis career for her. And Chaz does not know how to heal from his wife's death. And their parents should have gotten a divorce years ago.
I also agree with OJ and Destiny because none of the characters have healthy relationships when they move back in the house. First, the Royal Tenenbaums family does not even reach out to him when he is struggling because of what he has done in the past, and I think that causes him to be angry and depressed. I feel like no matter what has happened in the past, you should always have someone or something to be there for you. And for his family not to be there for him, I don't care what he has done, but for his family for not to be there for him, it kind of hurts him. I know it does a lot. And as Destiny said, the children are always on edge and depressed. It just seems like so much chaos and tension between them all. If it's not one thing, it's another. If they're not fighting, they're arguing. It's always something. Either someone's getting rushed to a hospital, someone's fighting, or it's just a bad time, a chaotic moment.
I agree with the rest of the group. All of the Tenenbaums had their own ongoing issues before moving back into the family home. So when the Tenenbaum family returned back to being under the same roof, everything was just hectic and chaotic from everyone dealing with their own problems. And now also being concerned with everyone else's issues. And like the rest of the group said, all of the Tenenbaums are depressed or heartbroken for some reason or another. So none of them have the best relationship with each other or even within themselves. So everything around them is just chaotic.
Chaz is the most memorable for me because he has lived through the most troubling moments. His father did not hang out with him as much as he did with Richie. He was treated as a grown adult at a very young age. His father betrayed him and took advantage of his success by stealing from him a few times, and as a result, their relationship ended up on bad terms. This is because a father should be there to support their children instead of take advantage of their success. Throughout the years, he grew up and married his wife, Rachel, and gave birth to two sons. But unfortunately, that happy moment ended up with the death of his wife from a plane crash. The brutal heartbreak he experienced caused him paranoia and anxiety, so to overcome his trauma, he became increasingly overprotective over his two children, Ari and Uzi. Even though he carries a lot of layers to his story, he experienced the most growth. At a very young age, he was very driven and righteous as he got to take on a heavy role in finance and business. Moreover, even though he lived in a dysfunctional family, he still managed to marry someone he loves, bear children, and remain successful at what he does to this day. Even though he still carried a grudge from his father, he managed to grow and convey his feelings to him at the end of the movie, before he died.
I disagree. I believe Richie is the most memorable character because his suicide scene was so graphic and sad. He looked in the mirror and said, "I'm going to kill myself tomorrow," and then proceeded to cut his wrist open. He fell slowly to the ground and was waiting to die. He was even at peace with it. He died knowing that the love of his life was a cheating whore, pretty much.
I agree with OJ on this. The most memorable character to me is Chaz as well. Chaz has that get through it, never stop pushing mindset. He was never fazed by any obstacle he faced in this movie. And after his wife died in a tragic crash, he really could have folded and it could have been really, really, really bad. But he always found a way to get through it. Yes, he might have been depressed. Yes, he might have been overprotective of his family, of his kids, but having to grow up at such a young age and being able to see his growth over the entire film is definitely memorable to me. Me having to grow up at a young age, as well as taking care of things, and seeing Chaz do it and being so driven, I automatically had an connection to Chaz, which is why he's the most memorable character to me in this movie.
Well, the most memorable character to me, I feel, is Margot Tenenbaum. She is all over the place and she is so unpredictable. And I feel like that's the type of person that leaves a mark because she always keeps you guessing about what she will do next. She started her career at a very young age. She's married but has had multiple affairs throughout the course of her marriage. She acts so nonchalant to a lot of things, and even when she's expressing her feelings, she still comes off as being nonchalant and careless.
At a young age, Margaret Tenenbaum was not happy with her life or her marriage with Riley. Based on my observation, Margaret's marriage looked very dysfunctional, unhealthy, and one-sided. I say this because Margaret pretends to love Riley, when actually her true love lies with her brother, Richie. And it even looks like she got married to Riley because she wanted to take her mind off Richie. After discovering her previous romances with other men besides her recent husband, it seems like she didn't truly love any man she was with, and it showed through her reckless behavior. Her husband remains unaware of this because they don't effectively communicate with each other. This is why he doesn't know that she smokes or has hidden more things from him and her estranged family members. The secretive lifestyle Margaret tries to hide is affecting her inside because she never looks happy and instead feels frustrated. And this ends up coming back to haunt her as her past gets later revealed to her husband and Richie. In addition, once her father came back in her life, the meeting did not end on a positive note because the father remained oblivious to getting to know his daughter, and his realization hurts Margaret deeply. Another thing is, after hearing about Margaret's secret past life, Richie couldn't hold back his heartbreak and attempted to commit suicide by cutting all of his hair and slitting his wrists. He may have done so because he couldn't bear to see the woman he loved for years with other men, like even his closest friend Eli. Not only this, but he is torn between trying to please his father's last wishes and preventing burning a bridge between the rest of the other family members, such as Chaz. Struggling with this could be a possible reason why he is so broken and suicidal.
I think the event of finding out that their dad was lying and about dying was pretty traumatic and sad. I feel like Royal was actually starting to put his family back together, and instead he ended up making them hate him even more. Though the children didn't expect much from their dad, this was a low blow. Royal died knowing that his family hated him. They didn't even cry at his funeral. He broke his own heart by lying about his death, which isn't funny or a joke.
I think an event that really caused heartbreak but started to turn out okay for the kids was when Richie and Riley found out that Margaret has been smoking, having sex, and had been married before. They both hate this news. They don't take this news well. So this caused Richie's suicide attempt. Riley had to rush him to the hospital. Richie wanted to commit suicide because the love he has for Margaret. He loved Margaret so much that it hurt him to know she had had sex, had been married before. So him knowing that Margaret had been out, been smoking, had sex, been married before, this broke his heart. And I feel like that this suicide attempt brought the family together more, and it turned out for the best for him in the long run, as he and Margaret got to talk and they kissed it out.
I agree with Tyree. Richie finding out about Margot's endeavors really hurt him to the point where he wanted to commit suicide. And even though it may not have been the main reason for him wanting to commit suicide, it was still sort of the final push for him to attempt to commit suicide. And he didn't reveal his true feelings to his adoptive sister until after he had already tried to commit suicide.
Yes, Margaret and Chaz are both experiencing some form of depression. If we understand what depression is, then we know that depression is the persistent feeling of loneliness, sadness, uninterest in doing activities, and paranoia, and sometimes it can lead to people taking drugs. So, for example, Margaret started smoking because she was experiencing stress in her life. Also, her behavior shows symptoms of depression, such as how she always looks sad, empty, and uninterested in engaging with her loving husband. This could be why she moves back with their family after her mom checks up on her. The only moment she looked happy was when she went back home with her mother, met Richie, and confessed her true feelings to Richie. Besides those moments, she always looked tired and hopeless. Chaz, on the other hand, shows it by his excessive protection over his kids. He gets frustrated whenever the kids don't meet his expectations or follow his directions. There are a few moments when he makes furious outbursts or gets irritable, especially when he talks about his brother or father. For example, there was one moment when he got angry at his father for mentioning his wife's death. This because this is a traumatic moment for him. So hearing about that can trigger all sorts of emotions. So it looks like these two adults are both going through some form of depression.
I think almost every character in this film has a sign of depression. Everyone has some sort of traumatic event happen to them in their life. No one ever genuinely looks happy in this film.
I agree with both Destiny and OJ. I also think every character is battling some sort of depression or some event that has happened that hasn't gone their way in the past. For example, throughout the whole movie, Chaz, he's irritable. He gets irritable quickly. He does not like when people bring up his wife, and that, I assume, is because of a little depression of what happened in the past. Throughout this entire movie, just like Destiny said, no one ever looks genuinely happy. Whether it be by themselves, whether it be with a family, like no one ever seemed genuinely happy.
Yeah, like Destiny and Tyree said, no one in this movie ever looks genuinely happy. All of the characters seem stressed and frantic, and that can lead to depression in some form or another. Richie, on the other hand, had been pushed to the final limit, and that resulted in him attempting to commit suicide. The other characters had less severe depression, so theirs wasn't dramatized as much in the movie like Richie's was.
Yes, specifically during childhood moments, I saw an overlap between this film and Amy Winehouse's documentary. Because according to this film, at a young age, the Tenenbaum children watched their parents separate. The father had left the children while the mother, Ethelyn Tenenbaum, took full responsibility for all of them. Moreover, the father was not a great person. He was selfish and uncaring. He stole money from one of his children and favored one child over the other. And this case can be similar to what Amy Winehouse experiences. Because both her parents were not on good terms and divorced while she was only just 9 years old. Also, she was primarily raised by her mother. Her father was not in her life until he returned when Amy Winehouse became successful in her music career. Her father is similar to Royal Tenenbaum because they both were selfish, uncaring, and uncaring for their children. How Royal Tenenbaum didn't care to get to know Margaret, Amy Winehouse's father acted the same way to his daughter. Another similarity I found between the two films is that Margaret Tenenbaum and Amy Winehouse share an interest in art. Specifically for Amy Winehouse, she expressed herself through music, while for Margaret is through her playwright. Also, they both struggle with drug addiction. Amy Winehouse copes with her pain by taking alcohol, cocaine, and heroin to erase her mind off her troubles, while Margaret smokes in her bathroom to relieve stress.
I agree with comparing this movie to Amy Winehouse's depression. Just like Richie, his heart was broke by someone he genuinely cared about, which led him to the suicide attempt. Amy also struggled with heartbreak and did not stop abusing alcohol and drugs until she died.
I agree with OJ and Destiny again. You do see the overlaps between this film and Amy Winehouse, I would say. Amy was depressed and heartbroken because of Blake. Richie is depressed and heartbroken because of Margaret. Both of them are depressed over someone they really care about and love. So I feel like that's an overlap there. Also, they both did drugs when they didn't feel up to par, when they didn't feel themselves to cope. Amy had a drinking problem, but Margaret just smoked because she was stressed. So that's another thing where they overlap as well.
I agree with everyone else. Amy Winehouse and the Royal Tenenbaums have a strong connection with each other because of the heartbreaks and the depression seen and heard on the album and in the movie. Like Tyrese said, Amy Winehouse was heartbroken and depressed over a longtime lover of hers, and Richie can relate to that the most because he was in love with his adoptive sister and was heartbroken when she was with someone else.
No, personally, this movie was a bit triggering for me. It hit a little bit too close to home, and I like watching happier movies. If it was triggering for me, it could possibly be triggering for somebody else. A lot of kids my age deal with depression and suicidal ideation, so personally, I wouldn't. Also, I don't like narration, and the movie was a bit slow and long, but I don't know.
I would describe this movie as a comedy drama film, and I say that because there's a lot of drama and chaos throughout the entire movie. But there are also some family moments and funny moments throughout the movie, which uplifts the spirits into the comedy aspect. The only way I would recommend this film is if someone needed views of heartbreak in different situations, meaning from character to character, there are different types of heartbreak that they deal with. If you wanted to know or see different types of heartbreaks and how they deal with them, then yes, this is the movie for you, and I would definitely recommend that to you.
I would describe this movie as a dark comedy film. This film shows a lot of heartbreak and tragedy and drama, but some of the dark moments are expressed in pure comedy. Although the director makes light of tragic situations such as this, I would recommend this to a friend and family because this is a relatable situation that most children face nowadays. Divorce, love complications, and depression is very common in the 21st century with the increased presence of technology and social media.
I agree with OJ. This film can be described as a dark comedy film. Through all of the drama in this film, there was some dark comedy thrown in that kind of makes you think, should you laugh at certain scenes or should they be taken serious? I wouldn't necessarily recommend this movie to a family member or a friend because I know the type of movies that they like to watch, and I don't think this is the type of movie where I would just be like, oh, you should just watch The Royal Tenenbaums because it's so good.
I would not recommend that you use this film to teach next year because this movie was a little bit too triggering for me. The suicidal ideations and then the dark tones of divorce and breakup and cheating. It was very, very, very sad. I don't like the narration. Narration in movies kind of take away from the actual film itself, when you use narration in films, they just make it seem like it's just a story being told, and you are not really able to connect with the characters because you feel like the characters are like one-dimensional, like they're made up. But for me, this film shows real people with real problems and real issues. Also, at times, the film felt a little bit too slow to watch, and it was a bit long. I didn't like how the scenes were cut up. I didn't like how the children were introduced. I wish that we showed more background to the characters and who they are. So, for instance, I wish that they showed that the guy's wife, I wish that they showed her dying in the plane crash to really get the effect of how traumatic the plane crash was for the actual children itself and also the actual person. I also wish for Margot, kind of like Margot, how we see her background of how her finger got cut off for her family. I wish that we also kind of started to see why she really started getting into cigarettes and what really introduced her to cigarettes. I would also like to see what was Royal Tenenbaum doing during the times he was not talking to his family. It just cuts off and it doesn't really tell us where he was for all those years. He just said that he was in a hotel and he wasn't really anywhere. I also wish that we had more background information on the mom. She's very dry character. She just looks like she's there. But otherwise, I wouldn't personally recommend this movie to anyone because it's also not a movie that you can watch with your friends and family. It's very depressing and sad. And unless you want to watch depressing and sad movies with like your sister or your brother, which I don't think anybody would, then that's it. But if you're for a course on heartbreak, it is a good movie because all the characters have some ounce of heartbreak in their lives, but for me, it was just very dark and much.
You can use this film. It wasn't a bad film to teach this course, and I say that because this course is depicted on heartbreak, and there were many different signs of depiction of heartbreak in this film, and different people that went through heartbreak in this film. So this definitely fits the class, but I know you can, Mr. Dill, I know you can find more movies and more films and more music videos that depicts heartbreak as well. So do I prefer it? No, but should you use this film next time to teach the course? That's up to you.
I agree with Tyree. This film was a great example to depict heartbreak and tragedies. This film contains a layer of problems that all cause the characters to spiral into a form of depression. Especially if the class focuses on heartbreak and depression, then this film will be able to demonstrate that to the audience. Thank you.
The film chosen was a good choice to depict heartbreak, but I feel like there's something better and more interesting than the Royal Tenenbaums that can do the same thing and get the point across about heartbreak and depression.
Okay, that is all for today. Thank you for tuning into our very first episode and listen to all of us speak. We really enjoyed watching this film. See you later.